Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Monaco.
And I'm Bobby Salveson, and we are the Hazmat Guys, bringing you the knowledge and insight to make your job a little bit easier.
Before we get into the show, let's thank today's sponsors.
The Hazmat Guys would like to thank our sponsor, Rigaku Analytical Devices. Rigaku Analytical Devices reduce fluorescence interference when identifying unknown chemicals using the 1064 advantage of the Progeny Rescue. Visit rigakuanalytical.com to learn more.
HazSim training systems have been in use across North America since 2011. Hazmat teams, firefighters, confined space specialists, and industrial safety trainers alike have found the value in the HazSim Pro system. HazSim brings real information-based decision-making to students from instructors safely and realistically. No more burning up sensors or pretending a 3x5 card is a meter in training. Visit hazsim.com for realistic training solutions.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back. We are continuing on this interesting path of fentanyl that we have. And luckily, we were able to snag somebody that I would view as a major expert in the field, Christina Baxter. You there, Christina?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello. For our listeners, you want to give us a little something about yourself?
Okay, well, let's see. I have worked in the hazmat field for probably 25 plus years at this point. The last 12 years, I worked at Department of Defense working on combating terrorism technologies, and prior to that, working in the hazmat field. And during my time with the fire department and working in those types of areas, I also did my PhD in chemistry. So
it's Dr. Christina Baxter.
Going down the hazmat road in every way possible for the last 25 years.
Nice. What kind of got you involved with hazmat?
Well, actually, the first time I took a hazmat technician course was when they first started offering it back in the late 80s. Might have been early 90s, probably 91. And it was more from an environmental chemistry perspective where I was trying to figure out what types of hazards were in the watershed in my hometown and to see if there was a correlation between that and the high incidence rates of cancer. So that's the geekdom that started me down the path. But really, it was all of my hazmat working with the fire departments and making sure that I understood what we were dealing with all the time.
Very interesting. So, let's just get right into the meat of it. And talk about the 800-pound gorilla. Everybody's yammering about fentanyl. First off, what is fentanyl, and what are we seeing out there with this?
Well, I think first off, for what is fentanyl? Fentanyl is an amazing drug that was developed years ago for cancer patients, to cover that breakthrough pain that they had and to make sure that there was something that would allow them to have the pain medication that they needed, where things like morphine, the up and the down, and not be able to have a continuous slow releasing mechanism. So fentanyl, for what it was designed for, was an amazing breakthrough in science and for healthcare industry. Now, over the last probably 10 years, you started seeing people either getting a hold of used fentanyl patches in the waste and trying to either chew on them or smoke them and that kind of thing, till now what you have is people getting fentanyl, and it's sometimes they're not even understanding that they're getting it. They think they're getting heroin or they think they're getting cocaine, and it's just a mix of different things to get the price down, because fentanyl on the street is very cheap.
That's only until you actually start going through the insurance companies that it's very expensive. Makes total sense.
Yes.
Well, and also in a much more regulated dose. And frankly, the first work on fentanyl was to develop that fentanyl patch, which took years of research to come up with the way to really dial in the exact dose going through the skin over a given time, and the materials that they had to put there to make it go through the skin at a same standard flow rate.
Wait.
So there's a lot of work done there, and it was specifically for those cancer patients.
That doesn't make any sense to me. I thought fentanyl just instantly went through the skin.
Well, if you could get let's say, an analgesic effect of fentanyl, which is just the euphoria that people are seeing. And frankly, if you lied in it for a few hours, you might get enough through the skin to get a analgesic effect. But no, unless you enhance it in some way to go through the skin, it is a skin toxic material, but it's a very slow and meticulous pattern to get fentanyl through the skin. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had to put the materials into the patch to get it to go through the skin easily and efficiently.
Oh, stop it with your science.
That's my point, is that you need something to almost transport, like insulin transports glucose into the cell. And so this stuff, pure and on the streets, even what the street chemist is doing, he's probably not mixing it in the proper proportions to make it go through the skin in the time frame that people are saying it goes through the skin, right?
So we've never to date seen a case of fentanyl intoxication via the skin. We've seen several cases of inhalation where first responders responding to an event have somehow aerosolized the material and breathed it in. Or there's also some cases that we're still looking at, which may have been through ingestion. But we still haven't found anywhere we can definitively say that it somehow got through the skin.
Yeah, because we're seeing reports and stories, and even just today we got a text message from a friend. A paramedic went down in the ER, and she was exposed to fentanyl, and it went through her skin, and this and that. It seems like that this perpetuating myth that no matter what research is coming out, people are still like, no, I believe I can't come close to this stuff.
Well, I would say if it's fentanyl and it's pure fentanyl, I mean, thinking the stuff on the streets is not pure, or we'd be in some serious problems, you still would have to get quite a hefty amount onto your skin and left there for a period of time, and then you still have to wait for it to make its way across your skin. But now there's fentanyl analogs, which we don't have a tremendous amount of data on yet for each one, but carfentanil, for example, has a much lower dose that'll cause that analgesic effect.
Right. So, I mean, like if we have, and that's where people are freaking out. They're like, if I even think about carfentanil, I'm probably going down. And, we've had arguments back and forth, and I might have said this in a previous podcast, is that, the DEA and law enforcement are saying level A every single shot. And, the people that are synthesizing this are wearing lab coats. So I'm going to guess that, prudence would be key as far as handling of this stuff. But I mean, I've read a couple of, studies about the transdermal time, and it was in the realm of hours, not minutes.
Yes. So one of the issues that, and I'm not quite sure where we went astray with this particular hazard, is that everybody seems to be reverting back to a hazard-based approach to the response versus a risk-based approach.
Explain that.
And while the hazard is definitely a hazard, I mean, fentanyl in itself and all the different analogs are a hazard. We know that. We can look at that hazard and say it's generally in a solid form.
Right.
We know that it takes time to go through the skin, although the only one that's fully characterized would be fentanyl, and it goes through the skin at a rate of like 61 nanograms per centimeter squared of exposed skin per hour, which means that even in a 15 minutes, if you had your hand like pressed against pure fentanyl, you still wouldn't even get an analgesic effect.
See, that puts it into perspective. Like, I could be taking a bath in this stuff, and as long as I take a shower immediately afterwards, I'm probably not going to get anything.
Yeah, I know. I know Gary Sharp from Federal Resources. He's putting together an entire class just on this topic with all the data behind it from the years of pharmaceutical research, as well as the the years of defense research on this topic. And that will hopefully alleviate a lot of those misconceptions about how fentanyl and fentanyl analogs work.
I would agree with you, except that the people that everybody seems to be looking towards, the DEA, the FBI, they're putting out stuff that are like, you have to be in a level A. There's no other option. This stuff will kill you immediately. And even if they're not saying it exactly like that, that's how it's being perceived in our community. And people are like, they're forgetting all the science and all the chemical physical properties that they've learned and all their risk-based analysis, and they're just like, no, we got to do it in a level A.
Fake news. Fake news.
Well, I think part of it is we have to step back and look at what is your role in that response? And so if we look at, let's say, an EMS person responding to an overdose patient, they likely will have some powder residue on them somewhere. I would highly recommend that if possible, they wear something like a P100 face mask and gloves. And at any time that you can cover all your skin, cover your skin. And that's just taking standard precautions for any type of EMS call, or things that are just good practices. If you were a drug buyer on the street, let's say you are the undercover who is doing a buy, chances are good that we can't put you in a P100 and gloves. It's going to kind of give away that you're not really a drug buyer. So we really need to let them go in as is and minimize contact as much as possible, but wash it off as soon as they physically can. But if you're talking in where the confusion keeps coming in with the DEA is when they're talking about taking down a Klan lab, they're recommending level A.
Right.
And the reason behind that is because they don't know what type of Klan lab it is usually when they go in. So regardless of whether it's a meth lab, a fentanyl lab, a PCP lab, it's the not having the full understanding of which or multiple types of labs are in there and at what stage of the process it's at.
Right, and if you're going in, and I can see this from law enforcement, where they're going into a potentially unstable locale, they may be tussling with the occupants, but at the same time, if they're rushing in there with level A's, and the guy who's making this is sitting there with flip-flops and T-shirts, and the guy's sitting there fighting them, how big of a deal is this? This guy, I mean, listen, he might have built up an immunity to this stuff, but I don't see him being very James Bondish where he thought this out very well.
Well, there have been several labs. So let's step back a bit and look at the types of labs that we're actually seeing.
Okay.
In the U.S., there have been maybe half a dozen good-sized labs. Of those, only 2 that I'm aware of have been reported as production labs. All the others were milling processes, which is just taking fentanyl bought, in from China via Canada, China, or Mexico, and milling it into the product so that you get your mixture that's sellable. And then generally putting it into pills, pressing it into things of that nature. There have been one a while ago in Seattle and then one in Massachusetts recently that were actually production labs. That's a whole nother story. And when you get to large volumes of chemicals, that's where they started getting a bit worrisome. However, the good news is most of the chemicals that are used to make it are liquids and solids. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm more of the thought pattern of I would go with an NFPA 1994 class 3 garment, making sure that I have some vapor protection, good particle protection, and good splash protection, more so than getting into a level A type of gear.
Well, that leads me into my whole thing, because we've said, all right, listen, if it's skin transmittable, I have many, many suits, basically plastic suits that I can wear to keep it off my skin. But the problem is that when the SCBA is on the outside, I now have a decontamination issue of getting that crap off my mask. And so therefore, the minimum I can go in is an encapsulated B suit, which is what you're saying.
Well, not for me. I wouldn't. But, fentanyl is water soluble.
Okay.
So if you have fentanyl particles on your SCBA, and you just wash your SCBA as manufacturers prescribe. It's soap and water. It'll come right back off. I mean, this is the same thing as if you went into an area where you had rad particulates, you're generally wearing just a coverall type of thing with your SCBA on the right side, outside, right?
Right.
And you're just washing it. I mean, there's plenty of places that can put their SCBAs just in the dishwasher now. I don't know if you guys do that, but there are places that do it.
No, we use our dishwasher specifically for dishes.
Yeah. But it is. It's the nice thing about fentanyl is it's water soluble. That's the bad thing as well when it comes to decon, but it's the nice thing when it comes to cleaning your SCBA. I'm more of a fan of, for these types of labs, of wearing a garment that allows you more tactility so that you can really get more comfort and movement and not worry about trip hazards and other hazards in these labs, because they're generally designed in a way not to be first responder friendly. So going in a level A where you have limited mobility, limited visibility, and really high heat stress, not sure I would prescribe that. And frankly, with the encapsulated level Bs, you're going to be almost the same level of heat stress and limited visibility and tactility.
Okay. I can hear that. It's a good point. Attention Hazmat Nation, class is in session. FLIR, a global leader in CBRNE detection solutions, has recently announced a new educational resource named FLIR Primed. Primed is a free online tool that provides first responders with training videos, best practices, field checklists, and street truth. Throughout the initial 10-episode video series, Grant Coffey, a retired fire and rescue hazmat team coordinator and CBRNE expert of nearly 40 years, delivers industry insights and real-life experiences that keep first responders prepared. In addition, each episode concludes with a free field checklist or downloadable guide that responders can use immediately, like the Prime training poster that covers these key actions of prepare, recognize, input, monitor, experience, and decision. You can watch it now by visiting www.flir.com/primed.
I just want to hit a little on the decon of fentanyl, because there's a lot of conversation with the people that I talk to. Some say you can't decon it. Some say it's deconable. You know, like you said, it's water soluble. And then there's a whole line of chemicals, decon solutions coming out that say that they can pretty much cleave fentanyl and render it inactive.
Well, no, what they're actually saying is, and I've seen this in multiple different things, it says our product will kill fentanyl in X amount of seconds or time or minutes. And it's like, it's not a biological. What are you saying, kill it?
Yes.
Well, I think what they're talking about is, and Mike, I know this is one of your favorites, it'll oxidize it.
Yes.
So there are several different things. But if I were just doing, let's say I'm the drug buyer on the street, or anybody, I get it on my hands, as soon as practical, wash your hands. Soap and water, get it off of you. Minimizing that time on the skin is the most important thing. Then go back, shower, get rid of your clothes. Don't wear them for the rest of your shift. Get them off of you and change. Now, if you are doing decon of somebody in a garment, you can go with soap and water, but you should keep that water runoff, because if there's any significant amount, it's still available to come back out because it is soluble. Okay. Bleach provides no benefit. But if you want to actually destroy the fentanyl, there's a couple different ways to do that are known methods for destruction of fentanyl. One is peracetic acid. So there's a couple commercial products out there, but you need to have at least like 4.5% of peracetic acid active in there to be able to destroy something in a good time frame. I'm talking under 2 minutes type of thing. So in that one, it's Dahlgren Decon. That was put together by the Navy Surface Warfare Center, Dahlgren, and was recently licensed and is now being sold by First Line Technologies.
Okay.
And that one, in a matter of, now they in the test data that I've seen, it's 2 minutes, but that's limited only by that's as fast as they could test it. So, it's likely much faster, but in terms of a test and be able to say a given time, you've got to be able to put the material into solution, extract it, and then measure it. So 2 minutes was as fast as they could really do it.
So it was really limited by the actual testing procedures than anything else.
As you start getting lower concentrations of peracetic acid, then you take longer. So you'd probably, if you had like half that strength, you'd go down to 5 minutes, that kind of thing.
Gotcha.
Now, the nice thing about peracetic acid is when you put it into solution, it pretty much acts the same way as hydrogen peroxide, just double the strength. So if you need 5%, let's say just for numbers, of peracetic acid, then you'd need 10% of hydrogen peroxide.
Will hydrogen peroxide do the same as peracetic acid when it comes to cleaving the fentanyl?
Yes. Because in solution, they act exactly the same. But the issue is you can't just buy 10% hydrogen peroxide off the shelf and it'll degrade pretty quickly. So that's not something you generally carry on the hazmat rig. However, you can, let's say at a hospital, that would be a perfect solution for them because they have it right there in the hospital. The nice thing about the peracetic acid that Navy put together is that it comes as a solid and you mix it on scene so you don't have to worry about degradation of concentration. So you're getting that 4.5% you need.
Wow. What does it do exactly? How does the cleaving happen?
It actually oxidizes it and just destroys it and breaks it right apart.
Right then and there.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's it. So, all right, so this drug you said before was coming in, basically via China. I mean, do you see a lot of synthesis in-house, and by in-country, I mean that, or do you see it coming from China, being transported through an intermediary country, and then being processed, if you would, in-country? Or how do you see this being generated for the responders?
So, like I said earlier, that we've only seen 2 production labs in the U.S. so far. So that was the one in Seattle several years ago, and now the one in Massachusetts about 2 months ago. And that was a significant one. Everything else has been a milling lab, which is just cutting it with mixing agents.
And generally, it's because it's difficult to synthesize this.
I'm a chemist, so I'd say it's not that difficult. However, it's really because it's so cheap. You can buy it coming in from China for, $5,000 a kilo. And that's pure. Can you imagine after you cut it? The return on investment there is huge. So why would they take the time and money to build it, to make it themselves, when ordering the precursor chemicals into the U.S. in bulk is going to cause them much more scrutiny?
Interesting.
So there's a ton of it coming through Canada, and they're trying everything they have to try to tighten down on what's coming in. But I'll tell you, the RCMP and some of the larger law enforcement agencies up in Canada are seeing this way more than even we are.
Yeah, that's interesting. And what? And it's just basically being shipped via, I guess, a messenger, or do you think that major carriers, and no offense to them, but they really don't know what they're transporting, like UPS, FedEx, are they the piggybacks for this?
I don't know what postal service it comes through, but remember that, FedEx and UPS are U.S.-based carriers. While they do have some capability in other countries, they generally partner up with local similar entities in those countries. So what they receive from their partners is what they expect to be correct. They don't open up every package. It wouldn't even be logistically possible to do that. Right. So, yeah, a lot of it's coming through, and frankly, it's coming through as another medication or something of that nature. You can just buy it right off the web and ship it right in. You can buy the milling equipment and ship it right in. Now, you're not supposed to be able to, and the DEA and Customs and Borders and folks are doing a hell of a job on clamping down on that. But again, for every one they catch, how many others get through?
Yeah, because they're making busts with
Interesting.
these pill presses relatively frequently, right?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so I just want to I just kind of want to wrap this all together. So, as far as fentanyl and its analogs, right, which have varying degrees of severity for us, we are as responders, we're worried more as an inhalation hazard, which is easily remedied with SCBA, than our transdermal. Though I do want to, we have the ability to have nice, easy transdermal protection. And as far as the decontamination of ourselves and our equipment that's on the outside, water and soap will do just about all of it.
Well, in terms of your cells and your human body or a human person, say without PPE on, soap and water.
Okay.
If you have PPE on, then I would go ahead and use something like Dahlgren Decon or something with at least 10% peracetic acid. Or 5% peracetic acid, sorry. Use that as the decon because then you don't worry as you're coming out that, hey, it's already been destroyed as you get out of the suit. Now, if you're deconning your equipment, you can still use peracetic acid for that, and that'll destroy it on the equipment without destroying the equipment. There are several other decons out there, or solutions that work to varying degrees. So there's a lot of them that produce free chlorine. Mm-hmm. You can use that for cleaning up an area. So let's say you had a patient, an overdose patient, you pick them up, you see white powder on the floor, you're not sure whether it's fentanyl or something else. You could either use Dahlgren Decon, let it have contact time to destroy it. But there's other things you can use as well. You can use any of those things that are free chlorine. The one thing to be careful of, and one material that does work very well. Now, you don't want to put these free chlorine ones on your PPE or your equipment. Just keep that in mind.
Okay.
One to be really careful about is trichloroisocyanuric acid, which is a pool cleaner. And while it does destroy fentanyl wonderfully, the one thing you have to be careful of is not to get it on your PPE. And the other thing you have to be really careful of is to make sure you don't get it near any hypochlorite solutions or it becomes very explosive.
Oh, yeah, that would be a bad thing.
An issue.
Yeah, that tends to be a bad thing. But again, your material will be decontaminated because it'll be on fire.
Well, let me just ask you this, because yeah, that would be, I guess, the ultimate decon.
Yes.
What if we had this uber finely talcum-like powder that's on the outside of my suit, and I'm concerned that when either I'm cut out or unzipped or they're ripping the tape off those companies or departments that still use tape, and we're taking this off. Inhalation's a big deal. So obviously everybody in the vicinity is going to be wearing SCBA. Do you think that using some type of wetting / soaping agent to kind of tack it down to kind of pin it to my suit so that I can exit would be beneficial?
So if it were me and I was still out in the field, which I'm not, I would use Dahlgren Decon with an electrostatic sprayer. Spray it on you, let it sit for the 2 minutes, know that you've got complete coverage of your suit because of the electrostatic sprayer. You've got the Dahlgren Decon on you in the contact time. Destroyed, get out. I'd still go back to the station and take a shower and change my clothes that were underneath.
Just as a precaution.
Just as a precaution, because I think any event that you're in, if it warranted the use of PPE, even if it's a standard fire, I still think you should go home, back to the station and shower and minimize anything so your dose is always minimum if anything got on your skin.
So we are acting as though this is anything else that we come across.
I mean, that's how I would do. Like I say to EMS personnel, use your standard EMS precautions. You should protect your airways always. Minimize any contact with skin. The dose is what's going to get you. So if you can minimize contact with skin, you're good. If you don't protect your airway at any scene, then you're crazy in my book anyway.
Absolutely.
Now, do you have to have SCBA? No, you can use an APR. You can use a P100. I prefer to use the SCBA because, number one, you're used to using it. You're comfortable using it. And frankly, it's the highest level of protection. And if you don't have your lungs, you have nothing. Your quality of life goes down so far without the use of good lungs and good volume.
Yeah, because you can have other body parts missing and be fine.
Right.
Yes. Well, look at you, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just as good as I was 10 years ago.
We don't, we always say we don't pay for the air, unless, of course, you're from Bridgeport, Connecticut, but I think they pay for that stuff.
Yes, which we just learned this weekend.
We just learned that Bridgeport pays a la carte for their air. But
oh, wow.
Yeah, they're tight up there. It's but these, it's very interesting because a lot of people on our job, which, I mean, depending on where you look from, where we work is, what are they doing? How are they reacting? So, like, we're setting the pace, and we're setting the pace based upon, half-truths or sensationalism, and
I think
we
it's
just
a
got to
lot
get this
like
out.
RAD response, where people don't fully understand it, so they get scared.
Yes.
And they take an extra precaution because they get scared. An extra precaution, if it's a quick in and out entry and you're just going in to take something, package it up, okay. But if it's something where you might have a prolonged entry where you could get heat stress issues, or if it's something where you're having to close down businesses and the economic impacts are huge, then you really need to do things in a more risk-based approach.
Right. With being in PPE, having risks. With being in a level A, having risks and weighing out those risks.
Yeah, you just have to manage all those risks and say, what's the best thing overall for the scene, with safety being the number one priority.
So, Chris, where do you see the future of this whole epidemic?
Well, I would say the DEA has working hard and strong with all of their partners, and they are over working with the Chinese government all the time. And one of the things that they've been doing is trying to limit the production of certain materials in China and getting into the U.S. and, making things illegal so that they can actually prosecute when they get it. But as those controls are put in place and fentanyl distribution is tightened on the material coming into the country, we're likely to see an uptick in the types of materials being made because, it's mainstay. People now need it. So the issue that we'll be looking for is the material everybody needs to understand is aniline, or some people say aniline, ANILINE.
What is that?
And that's one of the main precursors you need to make fentanyl. So in the 35 base fentanyl recipes that I have, 32 of them require aniline. So if you don't get aniline, now aniline is an oily liquid and it smells like the nastiest of dead fish. So you will know. Now, you can actually make it by mixing ammonia and phenol. Would give you aniline and water. You can actually also make it, phenol being harder to get a hold of. So the next thing that they can make it with is benzene and nitric acid and sulfuric acid. The problem with that will be that the intermediate phase makes nitrobenzene and hydrogen gas.
Very stable chemicals.
And then you make aniline and water, so that could be a bit explosive and flammable. So things to keep in mind that are coming along as they tighten down on with legislative controls, then you'll start to see, like meth, the production labs go up.
Wow.
There are many recipes, like just fentanyl itself. I have 35 recipes following about 7 basic pathways to production. There are one-pot methods out there already, and so that's one of the things we're starting to keep an eye on. Now, luckily, a lot of those don't work well or do not provide the desired result, so just leave them there and see what they make.
Yeah.
But
that's
really
crazy.
The big thing is going to be people understanding the risk and understanding how to go into these labs, what to look for, what to detect, and how to choose the PPE for a given situation. And all of those are basic hazmat principles. And just remember your basics and you'll be fine.
So don't lose sight. Use your science, use your research, use what you know, and don't get all hyped up on what you hear could be happening. Just go with science.
Right.
I love it.
And again, if you want a class on the topic, probably the best one out there that I'm aware of is the one that Gary Sharp does. And that's a very focused just towards this threat.
All right. Well, we would like to thank you for coming on. And where can we send our listeners to find out a little bit more about this if they so choose?
So I left Department of Defense in April after 12 years there and started my own company, which is called Emergency Response TIPS, where TIPS stands for Technology, Instruction, and Policy Solutions. So you can catch me at www.emergencyresponsetips.com or at Christina Baxter at emergencyresponsetips.com.
You know, let's go a little deeper. Can you give out your cell phone and home? No, I'm totally joking. Don't do that.
You know, I was going to do that, but I was afraid Mike would find it, and then that's just wouldn't be good.
Smart. I changed my phone.
I'm already watching.
Yeah, that's why I didn't have you mail me anything. I thought, no, then he'd know where I live. That's going to be awkward.
So thank you so much for coming on, Christina, Dr. Christina Baxter. What's the M for?
Marie.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought.
We were having bets back and forth.
Well, Mike? Yeah. So thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. And good luck. And I continue to listen to your podcast. So thank you for all the information you provide to the response community.
Thank you. Will you be willing to come back up with us?
Of course.
Fantastic. So
as long as Mike does not get my address.
That's so hurtful. You know, you stalk somebody one time, and then that's it. You're not allowed.
Just once is all
you
it
can't
takes,
go
Mike.
within 100 yards. You can't make phone calls. You can't send emails. I can't do snail mail. It's just so constricting. Well, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and our YouTube channel at The Hazmat Guys. And take a moment to call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484.
We are always looking forward to your feedback about information or interesting incidents that you were part of. So send us a note at feedback@thehazmatguys.com.
And remember, guys, don't just get on the job. Get into the job.